the Open Public Meeting Act. Will you take roll, please?
Bob Hoskins. Mary Lauko. Here. Bob LaFleur.
Here.
Barney Schmidt.
Yep.
Bill Connell.
Here.
Stephanie Chodel. Here. John Moon.
Here.
David Triggs.
Here.
Ted Chase.
Here.
Chuck Martin.
Here.
Bob Warnwalker.
Here.
And we know Bo is going to be absent, and so is Mayor Kramer. Did I miss anyone? Bill, did I say you?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Next on the agenda is public comment. We have a motion to open meeting for public. I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, meeting's out for public.
Just a quick question.
We'll stay there and
My name is Bob Hollingshead, 31 Winding Way in Hillsborough, New Jersey. I just wanted to understand the process that the town goes through to acquire open space, what the steps that it takes, in other words. How do you
How would you establish it in Hillsborough? Is this?
No, I don't know.
How do you acquire open space?
Well, first thing you should have is a willing seller for the property. That's what we kind of look for first. And then it goes from there. If we get a willing seller, we do appraisals, and there's a whole process that goes down from there.
So the New Jersey has laws related to the acquisition and ownership of dedicated open space. It's under the Green Acres regulations. I'm sure you've seen signs around about Green Acres. It's not just a fancy name. It also is a division of the Department of Environmental Protection. And they regulate, once a property is acquired with either state open space funds, county open space funds, or municipal open space funds, a municipality by referendum can adopt an open space tax. And then the tax can be used, there's two types of open space trusts by which the funds are placed into. One is an open space fund, open space trust fund that's solely for the acquisition of property, and then there's another type of fund that is for acquisition of property and historic, recreational, and farmland preservation, as well as just acquisition of land.
And maintenance.
Excuse me, Ted?
And maintenance.
And maintenance, well, I was yes, the maintenance goes along with all of those other things. Primarily, when you talk about recreational, active recreation properties and historic properties, there's probably more maintenance than acquisition costs, just because those types of properties cost a lot to acquire, to maintain. But properties can also be acquired by donation, or it can also be municipally owned land that is dedicated as open space that's previously been acquired through other means, whether it be through normal municipal acquisition process, just buying land with municipal funds as opposed to open space funds, or through tax foreclosure, and then converted to dedicated open space. Once it's open space, it is open space forever. There is a diversion process that has to be approved by the State House Commission, but it's a very difficult process, and it calls for a multiple of replacement value for a piece of property that's diverted and sold off or converted to another purpose other than open space. For instance, if we were to take 2 acres of land that's dedicated open space and want to sell it, the state would require us to replace it probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 times the 2 acres of municipally purchased property. So that's the deterrent in buying property and then selling, buying it with open space funds and selling it for a profit.
Okay, maybe, what is the process for approval?
But I don't know what you mean by the process for approval.
Well, let's say someone gets a property.
The Township Council is the governing body of the Township of Franklin. The Township Council ultimately makes the decision whether or not to purchase a piece of property, whether to maintain a piece of property as municipal land or convert it to open space. Everything is done by the governing body of the municipality. That's the decision making. This is an advisory committee who makes recommendations.
Okay, so you make recommendations.
Correct.
I just looked up, Hillsborough does have an open space
They do.
advisory commission, so you can talk with them too.
Do they have a dedicated tax?
They do.
They do?
Yes, they do.
Thank you.
Hi, Sue Clevenger, 43 Dorchester Court, Hillsborough, New Jersey. How long does this process take, ballpark?
Could take 2 months, could take 2 years.
Okay.
Depends on the nature of the acquisition, the complexity of the negotiations. I mean, it's a land acquisition, so think about any other type of land acquisition. Sometimes sellers think that their property is worth far more than what appraisers put the value at. Appraisers for open space properties are required to be certified by the Green Acres Office of the DEP, so there's a whole process involved in that part of it too.
Can I get a second chance? Bob Hollingshead again. So you would discuss it here and then make a recommendation, is that?
So for acquisition purposes, when this meeting is done and we ask you all to leave and we talk in private, that's called an executive session. We're allowed to talk outside of the public when it comes to discussions on things, specifically land acquisition for this committee. That's one of the exemptions from the Local Public Meetings Act. So that's when we would discuss it.
Okay, so nothing, it wouldn't be discussed in public, it would go straight to the...
Doesn't get discussed in public until it gets put on the agenda by the Township Council to adopt
All right, thank you.
the paperwork. Yeah.
And you'll have the opportunity to comment at that point, but you can't, well, you can, I guess, but you're not a Franklin resident, you're a Hillsborough resident.
Well, we're the public, so anybody can talk, but the issue here is that once we go to purchase a piece of property, the Township Council adopts an ordinance, so it has an introduction of the ordinance, and then at least 2 weeks later, has a public hearing on that ordinance, and if they choose to adopt that ordinance, they adopt it at that time for acquisition. It's also usually when the funding mechanism is adopted as well, whether it be cash or bond.
I'm good.
Any other comments from the public? If not, motion to close the public session.
Make a motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the April minutes. Hope everybody got them, you got a chance to look at them, not they're on the table.
I would move to approve.
Second.
I want to make a correction. On April 18th, I was in Paris. I was not here.
It's like me here. You felt like you were here. I have a comment also on page 3. The third paragraph of E, 6E, final line, it says it's not financially feasible for someone to bid, and that seems to be like floating in, it's not a full sentence, so I was just wondering if that needs to be deleted, or if that's missing something, or...
I'm sorry, oh, 8, you said 8, right?
6E on page 3.
Okay, got it. Should not be, it's not, oh, yeah. I think that just has to get deleted. Okay, thank you.
I wasn't here either, so I withdraw my...
Got it.
If there's no other corrections, motion to approve as amended.
Make a motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved.
I abstain.
Financial report, have anything updated on that, Sarah?
No, so it's on the table. I also sent it out as part of the agenda, so I can put it up on the screen if anyone has any questions or...
I do. Just something, I mean, I know we probably brought up this a number of times. What is sewer?
We get a sewer bill for the facilities that have sewer.
Our open space?
Sure. You got the bathrooms at Inland, you have the bathrooms at Naaman Williams, you have the bathrooms at Middlebush. We get sewer bills.
And what happened with the flood insurance removal at Van Wickle? What does that mean? What is that all about? Are we no
I should say
longer-
renewal, not removal.
Renewal.
That's
Renewal,
renewal,
yeah.
not removal.
It says renewal.
I'm not saying it doesn't, I'm telling you that.
Okay,
It
I
should
was
say
wondering if we
renewal. Yeah,
gave up on the flooding of Van Wickle.
No.
It should say renewal.
Renewal.
Typo by Tara.
I'm gonna fix it right now. brand new.
He was doing that 40 and type.
I thought we were going to remove it.
Renewal.
It actually went down for what it's worth. I don't know how that happened, but it did.
That's good.
50-year flood is over.
500-year flood's over, the 100-year flood is over. All that happened in a matter of 3 years.
Yeah.
Quick question for the landscaping.
Yes.
Do you have the natural green lawn care and then the turf care? Does that include labor, or is that, I'm just curious?
Yes, that's the
Out to
company
somebody?
coming and doing the
Yeah.
turf care, yes. Yep. Application of the turf, fertilizer and what have you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
on the agenda, it doesn't have anything about the Paris activity report, and just kind of comment on that, so I was just wondering when that would be on the agenda.
Consultant's monthly activity report number 8.
That's a good place for it. Thank you.
All right, no more questions on financial report. We want to do business.
Okay. So the grant from Sustainable Jersey for Neiman Williams, so we did receive the $20,000 grant that we applied for Neiman Williams Park. So we're excited about that. That's through Sustainable Jersey, and we had talked about it in open space a while ago, but it is for green infrastructure improvements along the existing path because it is subject to some ponding and some flooding where it becomes unusable at times. So that's the first part. The second part is to kind of start conceptualizing and developing a woodlands trail. And that builds off of a report that was done for us by Rutgers in 2020 called Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. And so it was a recommendation from that report. We kind of took it and we worked with trails and we, put the application in. We did receive it. So that's exciting news. And it's starting now. So we have until the end of 2024 to complete it. So I did meet with Trails last week and we started talking about we're going to have groups go out. We're waiting for a day where it rains heavily to go out right after to inspect the trail and get some pictures. We can kind of start thinking of the green infrastructure ideas. And then we have another group, and Chuck's on it, that's going to go out and kind of start helping to conceptualize that woodland trail. So we're starting to move on it, and I'll keep all of you, it'll probably be a standing item, I guess, on the agenda until we complete it.
All right, next up, Hunter summary report. You got any updates on that, Tara?
Yes, so I'm going to show you what we have done so far. So I've been talking to the Ag Advisory Committee about this for the last few meetings. We didn't get a lot of reports back originally. I did send out a few emails and got some more responses back, which was good. So just briefly, what we have is we got 94 out of the 158 permits. We received the hunter summary reports on. So the numbers I'm telling you are based on that. Just right before I left to come to this meeting, another 2 came in, so I can kind of add them in.
Say 178.
158. 94 out of 158. So the total that, it's up on the screen here, but you can see that for season 1, there was a total of 49 deer taken, in season 2 a total of 38, and in season 3 there was 31, for a total of 108. Oh, sorry, 21. I gotta wear my glasses, that's the problem, I'm trying my best not to, but time, I think. So a total of 108. I have it by area, if anyone's interested in seeing that. So you can see from last year, we have a difference of 5 from last year. So we're down 4.42%. We are still missing, though, quite a few reports. So I think as I get them in, that'll definitely go up. For the number of deer-related crashes in 2022, there was 135. So that's less than last year, which was 152. And then if you want to go by area, so for Butler Road, there was a total of 18, which is 2 less than last year, and we received 15 of those. We actually received all of their hunter summary reports, everyone from Butler, which is really good. There was no hunting at 518 this season. DeMott Lane, it was less 3 than last season, and we received 7 total responses. Elizabeth Ave, 3 up from last year.
4,
Is it 4?
3 up, 4 total.
4 total, yes, 3 up from last year, yep. Negri and Napodi, we don't have the reports in yet, I know they're coming, so I'll fill that in. I've been told they're on their way, and they're coming. I know. For 10 Mile Run, there was a total of 24, so that's 13 more than last year. 29 reports received. Willow Road, total of 8, so we're up 2 from last year. Wilson, there was a total of 13 deer taken, which is 1 less than last year.
No, 1 more.
Is it 1 more? 13, 1
12.
more. Yes, 1 more. I know, I have mine in the purse, okay. Well, I know, I'm stubborn that way. Weston, 8 total, so that is 2 more than last year. And then Memorial Forest, only 1 recorded. We are waiting again on more reports for that, so just, we gotta hang on with that. The Terhune leased area, we only had 1 response in, but it was a report of 0, so that's 3 less than last year. Scott Farm, 2 deer taken, that's 4 less than last year. We have 3 responses in. Then Dunn, there was 3 total taken, which is an increase of 2. Same thing with Gunther. And that is it for by area. And then I have them each tab, we don't have to go into it, but each tab I can do the area by season if anyone is interested in that level of detail. But this is the summary of what we have. Now again, I am still waiting on, what's 150 minus 94? We can do quick math, anybody?
We're waiting on 40% of them.
Yes, we're waiting on, so still waiting on a lot. I just sent out another email, getting meaner every time.
Tara?
Yes.
Where's the car information from 2020 versus this year?
Oh, the deer vehicle accidents?
Yeah.
In 2020 was 108, and in 2021 it was 152. This year was 135. So down from last year, up from 2020.
So, Bob might be sensitive, Chairman Bob might be sensitive to this, but I'm wondering if it would be possible to get data from depredation, so it can, within the township. I just think we need to keep track of these numbers.
Right. That's no problem.
And I was looking at these data just from last year's, and originally I was thinking that, the car crashes might be a good metric of how we're doing with the deer population, in terms of an indicator of whether it's going down or going up, whatever. And I thought last year it went down, but apparently not.
Our biggest problem with, I guess, Amarillo is still a pretty high crash area. We're between Elizabeth Avenue and East Coast Line because of the park being there.
Yes.
There's a boatload of deer in the park.
The one that I was kind of surprised that it didn't go up significantly, though, was Wilson Road.
Yeah.
My personal.
I gotta tell you, that's how I come into work, into the office every morning, and I'll leave here tonight, and there's a herd that is probably in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 that just roam front lawns by Masada, that whole area right there. I think that,
Well, we got a herd of at least 20 in my neighborhood, which is right behind Sampson School.
Right.
In that green belt area there. I counted them.
There's just areas we can't do anything about them, but we're doing the best we can, what we can do.
that's the problem. Where that is, there's not much you can do. But Wilson Road has hunting. There's the bow hunting, but
But, by the way, so Ring doorbell cameras is now the animal finding network. Okay, lost cat. Now, 2 things is, it seems like foxes in general, I've seen more of it. I basically ride in the morning, so it's like, 5:30 to 7:30 in the morning, and then, that's usually when I see them. But it seems more now than ever in, we'll call it the 4th, 5th ward, I've seen more comments on foxes, but I've also literally seen more foxes.
because weather, I think, is playing a part in it too. Mild winter means that the more foxes survive the winter, and more procreate in the spring.
We had a crash in the fox population, fox, skunk, and raccoon population. So a number of years ago due to rabies through the township, and it looks like it's coming back now. In fact, I'm wondering, what's the situation in public health? Are we getting more incidences rather than animals because of the increasing population?
Let's get back on track here. Any more questions about the year? Summary, if not, I'm gonna move on here to, we got a question for the Trails Committee.
I'm sorry? Oh, yes. Before this map 18 made, just so you, because I know you were asking about where they are, so the hot spots, just so you can see, but they're exactly where you suspect them to be.
By the way, something about that map, Bob, you can correct me, because everybody was looking at it and said it's very specific. The police reports are at the intersections. They're not at the
You're right.
specific spot.
Right.
Not,
Oh,
Not true?
accident reports are used intersections to determine the location, but there's an at and a between. So if it's at an intersection, it's at the intersection. If it's between two intersections, it gives a distance between.
Right, when it's a deer and a cow, well, regardless of whether it's.
If I hit a deer on Easton Avenue between JFK Boulevard and Foxwood Drive, the accident report will place that accident so many feet from one or the other, north or south of one of them. Yeah.
And that's a decent number to go by, but again, how many people hit deer?
Well, I think that there's far more, the accuracy is better now than it was maybe 20 years ago because of the costs associated with fixing a car. When you hit a deer, and you know, in the old days when you hit a deer with a steel bumper and it didn't do any damage to your car, you watched the deer flop on the side of the road and drove away, right? Now when you hit that deer and it does $6,000 to your plastic front end, you stop and call the police and make a police report. So I think the numbers are probably maybe more accurate than they were before, but the numbers are also higher now than they were before.
Well, more deer now.
Yeah, more deer. I agree with that too.
All right, the Trails Committee request.
So I included a memo with the agenda materials. So at the last Trails meeting, well, the one before it was actually in May, some of our Trails members have been talking about some security issues that have been talked about, I guess, on the trails. A lot of it has to do with some car break-ins. One of our members had their car broken into at the last meeting as well. And so the committee started talking about it and said, you know, we think a camera is helpful. We think it's helpful at John Clyde Memorial Native Grasslands Preserve. And we think it would be great to have these cameras at, you know, all of our trails just to kind of monitor and also maybe prevent some of these issues and help when these issues happen. So the memo basically says that the Trails Committee would like open space to consider budgeting, you know, it doesn't have to be right now, but, you know, maybe one every year, or if it's in bulk, whatever we think, but basically preparing to buy cameras for areas where there are trails where people leave their things in the car and then walk into the woods and don't come back for a little bit.
Bob, did the council talk about this
Well,
last
two of them are already being done. So there's, I mean, the Inman Park and the Wish Park. All the parks are getting cameras, so, and actually, funny, we just talked about Neighbor Williams, so we'll have a trail there, there's gonna be cameras there too. Excuse me. The location of the cameras dictates the cost, right? I mean, it's not as simple as let's just put a camera. The one at John Clyde was significant cost. I think it was somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000 by the time we were all said and done. Well, there's no power.
Wow.
We had to have a pole put in. We had to have solar that's reliable solar. It's cellular solar. So the camera, and it's a PTZ camera, pan tilt zoom. So there was a significant cost involved in that. Now the cost for a camera, since we put that one in, seemed to be coming down as technology advances. So what I would say is, if the committee is interested in it, without belaboring this, I think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a bad idea. One, that you'd have to look at the particular areas where they're going to go in to see if there's power, because if there's not power local to it, and obviously we have to pay public service to run the power to a pole. So like, you know, it's interesting, I see Bunker Hill, if we're talking about the parking lot that's right on Bunker Hill Road, that one you might be able to pull off a camera just on a pole on the street, depending on, I don't know which side of the street the poles are on in that particular part of Bunker Hill Road, but you might be able to just get away with a pole camera on a utility pole right by the parking lot. Butler Road might be a little bit more difficult, because you also want to be able to see. We got a tree canopy with Butler Road, so that might create an issue. Like I said, Inman Park and Middle Bush Park are part of that whole process of annual camera installation in parks. Castleton Park has been done. One of the inclusions in this year's capital budget was the purchase of conduit for the Public Works Department to run fiber from the municipal complex into Middle Bush Park, which will facilitate cameras, also card access on the concession stand, so that we can allow the bathrooms to be open more often, and also public Wi-Fi in the park. So that's what's going to facilitate the cameras. So they won't be cellular, so there's no recurring monthly cost. Those will be Wi-Fi cameras. Well, actually, they'll be hardwired for fiber, through the fiber that runs from actually the senior center.
So it sounds like this has already been decided.
That was in the budget for the council.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are we
Yeah.
being asked to do?
Well, you're asking for Bunker Hill Road, Butler Road, and Negri Napodi native grasslands. It's in your memo right there.
So what is the reason for all those cameras everywhere?
Cars being broken into and providing security in our parks for safety purposes. Same reason we do it in other parks.
What's the recordings of them? So like police can be
They are. Yeah,
I
they
would-
recorded on the back end.
I don't have a problem with cameras in the parks, but I don't think this committee should be responsible for,
Well, this committee
yes,
can-
I think it should be, the cameras should be set up in areas where illegal dumping might happen.
Well, that's in the open space law, that's too.
Of a concern, then, like, why are we tasked with break-ins? I mean, I don't
Because it's
think.
an open space property and the township has an obligation to provide.
Yeah, but if we have a limited budget for setting up these cameras, I'd rather see them in areas where there's illegal dumping than rather.
There does happen to have a lot of illegal dumping in the parking areas. We experienced that a lot, graffiti, and the camera in the past has been helpful in finding, what happened and when did it get put
There was
there.
criminal mischief done and
Yeah.
dumping done in Grapestown, the camera was there to record
Yeah.
it.
Frankly, we have dumping going on right now at Butler Road. We've got dumps, car fenders.
It happens, yeah, it happens a lot of the open spaces.
And we've had
A lot of
incidents
drug
at
dealers in
Brixton.
Inman
And,
Park.
Mhm.
I mean, and nothing's been done about that. I've talked to the police many times about drug dealers there,
Well,
during the day.
I think, I'm not going to dispute here whether or not nothing's been done. I
I'm just-
would respectfully disagree with that statement.
Okay, well,
I mean, I think
see
the
them
police
all the
department
time.
has done a significant amount of work as it relates to that, but that's not a debate here. The question was, Trails Advisory requested that this committee give consideration to making a recommendation, since this committee is the one who makes recommendations on utilization of trust fund money, and that's why the Trails Advisory Committee wrote the memo that they wrote.
I do think in the spirit of open spaces, not to have Big Brother leering at you from every corner is an important part of civic life here. And, if we have stats on crime actually going up in these places, if we have the effectiveness of these cameras already being installed, I'd be curious to see that. But I really am opposed to more cameras in the most private parts of our nature and people just wanting to enjoy.
Yeah.
We don't know if a lot of these car break-ins have happened because people left their doors unlocked, have left valuables in the car, which is never to be advised to be doing that, especially in any of these places.
Right.
So we don't know the context of when these crimes happened, how they happened, how many, if it's gone up. And I think this is a bit overkill, to be
I
honest
think
with
so
you.
This particular incident that recently occurred to one of our Trails Committee members was at Negri Napodi. Her car was locked. Her car was actually broken into. The lock had to be repaired from it. Her billfold was stolen, which was actually hidden within the car.
Yeah,
And
but
so
you're
on.
not supposed to
And
leave.
as a result
If we tried
of
to apply
investigating
that,
this,
you know,
we found that there are
first.
other break-ins that have occurred within Franklin Township, particularly in the parking lot at the Parks parking lot at Blackwell Mills. There have been several incidents there. There's clearly some operatives in the township who are going around the parking lots breaking into cars.
Regardless of whether somebody locks their door or doesn't lock their door, we should not be victim blaming somebody when their car gets broken into.
Nobody's
We're not
victim
blaming-
blaming anybody, but
Your car can get broken into anywhere. I
they
mean,
get
it doesn't
broken
matter where
into
you're
on their
at.
driveway.
What happens,
I mean, and they say,
And that's why people have cameras on their houses.
And that's why they have it on their cars, you know? and if
Five, question on this, okay, you have them already in
Like I said,
the...
Emmett and Middlebush are on the road, there's a program to install cameras in all of our municipal parks. That's they're on.
So this is a deep discussion, and we're all, eventually we're all...
But the others are ones that I don't know that there's been
The
any
memo from the Trails
consideration.
Committee is specifically asking that all of our trail parking lots, that, no cameras in the
We just don't
trails,
have a lot right
but
now,
that
so
all of
those
our
are the ones
trails
that have
have a
parking
camera.
lots.
That's what the-
Yeah, but the next step is
So the next meeting, we'll investigate what the cost of doing the rest of the
Well,
year.
what I was going to suggest is that
That's what I
Barry
was gonna
speak with
ask.
Bob McQueen from the IT department because he can get her information. I actually am meeting and an ongoing project for the installation of cameras in another location that was also included in the budget that relates to traffic and safety in another part of town, not related to parks, public streets, like we have on Hamilton Street. And I actually will have a meeting with the company next week, so if you want to talk to Bob about this too, he can include that in the meeting with the vendor.
Just for maybe a little cheaper way to do this, is there any thought of getting this done with electronic, expensive cameras to put high-end trail camera on?
But that doesn't provide the information live to, if there's an issue that's being...
No, it's on a
Yeah.
chip or whatever, you can see.
I mean, there's cameras throughout this building, not just that one that's showing us on TV. It's all part of the same network, so everything is part of one,
Got it.
one solution.
Well, actually, hunters in our area now are using trail cameras that actually report to their cell phones.
Right.
And, in terms of, just intermittent surveillance, as a way of deterring dumping as well as...
I said, there we go, look into that then.
Yeah.
Who's the vendor? What's the vendor that we use? Who's the vendor?
Right now, I'm meeting with a company called Dyntek,
How do you spell it?
Dyntek. They're Cisco
And is
cameras.
that the ones that in Inman, in Middlebush?
There's none in the northern
Is that the
bush.
one?
That's, we haven't done anything other than pass a budget a month ago.
Okay, but that's...
The process has
vendor.
begun.
Okay.
What was the price tag?
I don't know yet. I'm meeting with the vendor next week. I don't know what the price is yet. The project, we just adopted a budget 20 days after the adoption of the budget, which was May 4th, I don't know, first Tuesday in May. 20 days later, the estoppel period is over, and then we can begin to start spending money. So that's when the projects begin.
We didn't bid it out.
It wouldn't be bid out. It doesn't meet the qualifications for bid based on cost.
So we,
It's a state contract.
so as of now, we don't know what the cost is going to be. I would be in favor of doing this. I know there hasn't been a motion yet, but I'd be in favor of doing this, but I would first like to hear...
Well, as I said, why don't we wait to hear, and you're not going to do it this year anyway, because the budget is already passed.
So after this meeting, maybe after, you'll have this meeting and you'll have a better idea at our next meeting as to what the costs are.
And on the back of that, I would be interested to know about the effectiveness of this. I'd like to know any studies about the effectiveness of these cameras.
All right, moving on. I have one thing under, I guess, a fall under new business, and just the FYI to the man, to Bob here, is, I believe, I'm not sure, but over at Whitecroft Garrison, their tree fell down the lawn, been there for
I've
2 or 3
already
weeks.
got a notice from Sue Ann Durkatz, and I have a meeting that I need to schedule with her. Public Works has been put on a work order that's
Well, just,
with multiple trees.
yeah, there's that tree that fell over, the whole thing should be, it's an offshoot of many, you know, it needs to get taken
She's
down.
got a list of like 5 different trees.
There's a pine tree there's leaning pretty bad, one good storm, it's gonna be on the wires or a house or something, so.
It's a laundry list from the Meadows family.
Okay, I'm sure you do. I just wanted to bring it up, I just saw it again, I go by it every day, it's like, oh man, come on. Old business, National Trails Day, I guess we.
So just, we had National Trails Day, it was Saturday, June 3rd. It took place at John Clyde Memorial Native Grasslands Preserve and also at the trails by Bunker Hill Environmental Center. So we had 2 things going on at each place. So by Bunker Hill, it was disc golf and a walk, and then at John Clyde, it was a walk for younger people, and then a longer walk as well. And so, yeah, so it was held again. It happens every year for Saturday of June, and the Trails Committee did a really good job.
Very good. Next on the agenda is the parking lot on 518.
So the parking lot of 518 has been cleared.
Right.
The curb cut just needs to be made, and, oh, Ted, do you have a question?
Well, I looked at it as I came by. It looked as if maybe 3 trees had been taken down.
Yeah, not
I
too
wouldn't
many.
say it was all cleared yet.
It's cleared in sufficient size that we don't have to worry about stormwater regulations for the parking lot. It can only be so big, otherwise then we have to file all the stormwater permits with the DEP. So it won't be giant, it'll be there for a couple cars.
Just, there's no idea how some of that curb's gonna get put in and cut.
And it's Belgian. They're just, the Public Works is just getting permission from the county to put the depressed curb in place of the standing curb.
So this is pervious layer, it's going to gravel.
Gravel is considered impervious for stormwater regulations. Yes,
Where it is.
absolutely.
I was told once by Ellen Ritchie that the reason was that overnight gravel could be taken.
Sooner or later, somebody comes in and puts down millings or QP, the quarry process, and then it becomes something more than just gravel. But anyway, no, gravel is considered impervious surface for stormwater regulations.
Learning something every day.
There you go.
All right, as long as it gets done by September the 1st.
It's pretty much ready to be done as soon as they do the curb. I think that Carl is probably going to have the mason who's doing the contract work for our depressed curves for handicap ramps and things like that, go down and do that depressed curve with the block.
Are we sure that the county will let us cut the curb? They can hang very tough on that.
The county won't be a problem.
They should be okay with it because of site distance and everything. I think we're okay.
It's not near any other driveway, and we're allowed to have a driveway on our
And
property.
when they're doing the work, they don't have to do the work.
Exactly.
All right, Terry, you have any information on the meeting at the Meadows property?
I did, so I spoke to
Sue-Ann.
I spoke to Sue-Ann. So at both properties that we were talking about, she just wanted to alert us that there's no Wi-Fi capacity in those buildings. So just so, for example, which is fine, we wouldn't be able to do anything on the screen, you know, everything would have to be printed. So I just wanted to let you know that. And also, it only fits us, basically would fit our committee, and that might be the extent of it because of some restrictions potentially that might happen. So I just wanted to let you all know that, and I will definitely continue speaking with her, but before we pick the date, I just want to make sure everyone knew that if we do meet there, you know, it's not going to be, I'm not going to show anything on the screen or any like live mapping or anything like that. Not that that's necessarily a huge problem, but just so you're aware. And also the space could be potentially snug.
Well, I mean, you don't need Wi-Fi if you have a file saved on your computer, you can just project it.
Right, right. But no.
If they have a screen, you can still show something, it just won't be like.
Right, yeah, so there's no screen that, or anything like that. Yeah, there's nothing, like that, for example. So I might be able to, maybe, but I would need to bring a projector, which is no problem, but then there's just the wall. I mean, we could just print everything out as well.
Yeah, you know.
But before we did it, I just wanted to let you know and see if, make sure 100% you want to go with that.
We're going to a historic home, so we can do this historic ways without electricity.
So we should have quills,
ends.
All right.
We have to close out the bottom before the turkeys.
There you go.
We have to dress it
And men wear wigs.
So you want me to proceed with getting the permission and everything? Okay, so yeah, before she went and talked to the board, she
There
went
should be
through,
enough.
please make sure they
You were
know.
looking at Hageman and Van Lucen Dam?
Yes, yeah.
Van Lucen Dam should have
I know,
enough room.
and they.
Well, like I said, the only thing it is a public meeting, just remember that it is a public meeting, so there has to be.
There's more room than Hagen Barn that would be this van.
Well, I wondered, I was gonna suggest that, and while it's, you know, if you do it in September, right, the weather is nice, it's big,
That's my suggestion.
it's very, very, very big.
And they're supposed to be starting to work through some construction or reconstruction of that Luke House sometime.
So, I mean, we could.
Let me check the Hagen
The
Barn
barn is
instead.
fine.
Yeah, we'll check with Hagen Barn.
The barn's fine.
Okay. I can
So,
do that.
There are, might be,
chairs or?
Well, I have to walk
across the cemetery.
I could probably arrange for chairs to be brought there if that's where we chose. Have you ever been in the barn?
No, I haven't. Been in the house, but not the barn.
It would certainly be suitable.
They have weddings there, don't they have chairs somewhere?
There have been, I don't know if they have chairs on site, I'm just telling you, I can get chairs to be brought there, that's not a problem. Yes, they do have weddings in the barn, so it's a place where it's certainly suitable to have a meeting.
We could also, go old school, no electronics, or we go get some, maybe get somebody to donate some hay bales for a night.
We should sit on hay bales. Do you know anybody where we can get hay?
I have to check that out.
And for.
recliner.
I'll proceed then.
All right. Next on the agenda is the planning of the First Street Memorial Forest.
So,
Are we talking about September still, or we haven't decided on the,
Well, the issue with the barn is there is no HVAC system in the barn. So while September is generally mild enough to have a meeting because it's like being outside, I don't know if you want to push it much beyond September. It also, you know, it's sort of kind of light out in September. The lighting is, the barn.
no, I'm just saying,
There is electricity in the barn.
2 months' notice, like if we change location, how much notice do we need to give?
You're fine.
Okay.
You're talking about for the public notice for the meeting?
Yeah.
Well, the other thing, typically, we don't have a July and August meeting.
Right.
So September will be next up.
A change in venue and a deviation from the posted can be done days before. It doesn't have to be done months before.
7 days.
All right, go back to the tree.
the tree is in. The mark out from PSE&G, which is required, has been completed. So I am just waiting on confirmation for the date and time of that tree planting to make sure that the mayor can be there. So as soon as I have that information, I can just give the date and we're good to go, so.
So where is the tree planted in Memorial Forest?
It's going to be planted at the front entrance before you get in. So right as you're driving in by the fence and the sign, it's going to be in that general area.
Okay, it's going to be some sort of, what sort of?
It's an October red.
Red October.
Red October will.
What, a submarine?
Yeah.
Isn't that a submarine, Red October?
Yes, it's-
That was a movie. That movie. That was the hunt for.
We've been doing that for 2 years, on it.
We have been hunting for that for.
Not so much for Red October.
So what kind of planning is it going to be? Are they going to have an apron around it to keep doors from knocking the bark off and
They get bagged, like all of our new plantings, the typical,
oh, that's watering, yes.
watering bag, and that's to protect it.
It'll be staked, it'll have deer protection around it,
I was shocked.
it'll be mulched.
There was not nearly as much death on JFK as I would have predicted. It's amazing, like, you know?
So while we're on that subject now, I have to bring up something about this particular topic of the planting of trees at Memorial Forest. We have had many discussions about planting of trees at Memorial Forest, and the people and the public having the opportunity to pay for and dedicate a tree in memory of someone or some group, whatever they want to have a tree in memory of. Pat, you could be Pat. And the costs associated with that are things that we've determined are the cost of the tree. It was asked of me by Mayor Kramer, who is going to have the first tree dedicated to his mother. What is the cost of the planting? Fair question. My answer to him was that I was of the opinion that there should be no cost for the planting. When we have a tree purchased by a private citizen to be planted on public property, I think that the township should incur the cost of the planting. I told him that I would bring this up. I had planned on him being here for this. He's not here because he's sick. But I told him that I would say what my feelings were on this, and my feelings are that the Public Works Department maintains our open space properties. The Open Space Advisory Committee has that understanding that the Public Works Department's salaries are, for the most part, funded in the Parks Department from the Open Space Trust for maintenance purposes. That includes planting of trees, whether they were planting trees that were paid for out of the Shade Tree Trust or planting trees paid for by a private citizen. They're being planted on open space properties. I think it's fully appropriate that we don't also charge the people buying the tree to dedicate to someone the cost of planting it. I think that's the least we can do is swing the cost of that. It's not that great.
And it will encourage more
People to do it. Now, the other thing is, and we had talked about this, and I'd really like this committee, you don't have to make up your mind today, but the other thing that could be done that I think is probably appropriate here is that we plant a cluster of trees in an area that's to be dedicated for this particular purpose, maybe plant 20 or 30 of them, and that they be there, and that when someone wants to dedicate a tree, they pay the cost that it cost us to plant that tree, and then they can put their plaque in front of the tree that's already planted, and hopefully by that point had taken root, right? This way we don't have to worry about the tree dying if we maintain, and it's also easier. When I send the Public Works Department with the tank on the back of a truck to go water trees, rather than watering one or two, if they're watering 30 of them, it's a much better utilization of time.
I'm all for that.
I agree with that 100%.
That anyway.
Me too.
Not one at a time.
So what I would say is, Arnie, you have a Shade Tree Committee meeting coming up, I believe, next week maybe? Right? It's Thursday. So come up, I think that you, the crossover with Shade Tree, and you're also a crossover with Shade Tree, make the recommendation for the number of trees and the type of trees to be planted, and then we can move forward with that. In the fall, I'd say we would probably plant, that's a better time to plant now with the oncoming summer season, probably not conducive to plant them, too dry, plant them in the fall, when I think it's more appropriate to plant trees at that point.
So you suggest, and that the cost of the planting,
there's two ways we can do
the
it.
Shade Tree Trust Fund.
So the Shade Tree Trust Fund makes perfect sense to utilize to pay for those trees, and when someone makes a dedication of a tree, it just goes back into the Shade Tree Trust. That's it. That's how it would work.
So the cost, the DPW cost would be charged to the Shade Tree.
Well, it's interesting, so, no, I think that because you're planting a tree on open space, I don't know that there's a reason to go bill out to the trust. I think that they're already being paid. When they go to work on a Tuesday morning, they're already being paid by the Open Space Trust, it's straight time. So they're gonna go plant the trees on open space property, they're doing work on open space property, right? And I don't think to deviate from it, there's a reason to.
You should just be able to plant 6 different type of trees, 5 kinds. 5 trees.
I think it's a great
So that's
idea.
30,
I think Shade Tree will agree with this idea. I believe
You don't want to
that.
purchase a tree and too much is dead.
And Shade Tree will probably come up with a list of...
That's all I want, I think they're the best suited to make those recommendations. That's why we have a Shade Tree Commission.
Sounds like a great idea.
We gave you a list, a short list, but.
You did, you did,
Yeah, I'm not saying, but if
Deal with
you-
what's available and,
Yeah.
like, because all of those are in theory, like,
That's
I'd
it.
love to see sassafras, but like, you can't find them in the nursery.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I have a question, but I'm sorry I wasn't here for the last meeting, it was a lot of discussion apparently. Our DPW person, Shade Tree, mentioned they had a concern about watering the trees, and watering these trees will be important, basically if you plant.
We're working on that,
don't
and
water them,
so
they die.
there's two things that are in the works right now, and certainly Connor, who's a laborer in the Public Works Department, is not aware of all the things
Okay.
that I'm currently working on with the Public Works Department and the Township Engineer.
Okay, that's great. He is specific though, he was mentioning that they take the dump truck with the water things on it and it's really heavy. So he was concerned about how they're gonna drive that truck in there without like
Well, there's a
a
road.
solid road. I don't know.
There's a farm road on that
There's
lot.
a road that will support them so the truck doesn't sit, it's a Mason truck, so he's concerned about it sinking.
I understand.
That's all.
Like I said, all of that is something that's above his pay grade.
Okay.
He's there to report back, and then
He's here.
he'll get information to report back to you.
Okay.
All right, next on the agenda is the updated open space plan, the recreation plan, anything on that?
So I met with Mark Healy, our township planner, to discuss, what the approach was that I had discussed at our last meeting about starting off with, doing an inventory to prioritize parcels for open space preservation. He agreed that was a good way to go, and he was going to talk to the planning board about it to see if anyone from that committee wanted to be involved or just kept, abreast of what's going on, because of course it's going to be part of our master plan. But he says he's good to go, with our approach. So I am going to be reaching out to everyone in the next week or two just to put the subcommittee together to start this. I also spoke to AT, our GIS person, and kind of ran by him what I was thinking, and he said it's definitely a doable project. So everyone that needs to be on board and aware is, so we can start, doing that exercise. So I'll start reaching out to see who wants to be involved, and then we can start there. That'll be step one.
All right, very good. Any questions on that? Not local health assessment?
So the local health assessment report is finished now, right? So SAFI right now, which is...
154 pages. I'm just letting you know, Saturday came to me this afternoon at about 4 o'clock and said that she had had a discussion with Kara about a presentation of the local health assessment plan to the Open Space Advisory Committee tonight, and then she informed me that it was 154 pages long. And I said, given the fact that it's 154 pages long, perhaps we might want to distribute it to the Open Space Advisory Committee and the Environmental Commission and any other committee that had an interest in it. And then there could be a discussion about it after the committee had an opportunity to absorb the
Yeah.
154 pages.
It takes time to absorb.
Which I have yet to see.
Yes, so Safi was going through it to, kind of give her edits, and we've met on it. So now, I guess you went and talked to Bob, because now you're gonna have to read it next. But it's very good. It's very good. And there are a few spots, maybe I went a little too, I thought it was awesome, but I like that kind of stuff, so I don't know. It's a lot of tables and maps and charts, so it's not a ton of text. But it's a really, really good report, and the good thing is that the reason it's a little bit longer is because we're able to incorporate the action plan. We talked to Sustainable Jersey, so instead of doing two separate, we incorporated the action plan in. So I think it's gonna save us some time, but finally, at least it's done. So I will, after Bob has a chance to look at it, I'll get the okay to send a link around, and then you can look through it, and I hope you like it. I think it was exciting, but I don't know.
We're not meeting in July and August.
Yeah, that's,
You'll have plenty of time to absorb it, and it'll go your way.
Arnie, let us know.
You'll get it twice, because obviously it'll go to environmental as well, so.
Let me know if they read it twice.
You have to give us twice as many comments, so.
You don't want to from me.
Well, you don't put that
Don't encourage it.
All right.
You'll be doing a book report.
Is there a yellow with the yellow?
No, I think you're gonna like it though.
Cliff notes
I
for
think
it.
you will.
Is there any other business that anybody on the committee wants to bring up at this time? If not, any questions on the consultant monthly activity report there?
Yeah, I did have a comment, and I will wait till they're
discussed here.
talking down now.
Oh, perfect, okay, yeah.
Go ahead, Arnie.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
Arnie.
so on the activity report, on page 1, I guess it is, the 5th from the bottom, I think it's correspondence and coordination with discuss and coordinate the maintenance needs at open spaces with DPW with feedback from Trails Advisory Committee. So part of that, I think, was answered regarding Memorial Park about watering of trees. So there's been a concern, Shade Tree has had a very big concern about watering of trees, and we've been told by township personnel that there is no watering plan. We've been specifically told there is no.
So like I said earlier.
Right.
And this isn't an open space discussion, it's a shade tree discussion, that I've had a discussion with our township engineer, who is going to provide cost estimates for what you have just talked about. Both, not only cost estimates for development of a maintenance plan and splitting the maintenance plan between just road trees and also to include parks and open space, because that will obviously expand the cost of development of the plan, and then also the cost of a maintenance plan, not the cost of maintenance related to that plan, so that an informed decision can be made by the township council as to whether we will move forward with that. Yeah, that's already being done right now by the certified tree expert who heads the department at CME.
Excellent, that's what we wanted to hear, that something like that.
So that's been done as a result of my discussions
Right.
a few weeks ago.
And we can report that at Thursday's meeting.
And you can absolutely report that.
Yeah.
Connor will not know that because, again, above his pay grade.
Right. Well, it wasn't Connor that told us.
No, but I'm saying he won't know that at the Shade Tree Commission meeting, because that's not really his function right now. To be honest with you, this is at my pay grade.
Good, and I appreciate that. And so the follow-up,
All the way up there. All the way 6'5" off the ground at that point.
the follow-up on that is because Shade Tree has been very reluctant to plant any new trees until there is a new.
I read your memo.
Pardon me?
I read your memo.
All right, then. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a comment at the same point. Just, because I wasn't aware of this at all, but so your report says it's coordinated maintenance needs open space DPW and feedback from Trails Advisory. So like Shade Tree, like Marnie said, is very concerned. We're going to really want the best for the trees. So could we be involved in a consultation like that also? Is that reasonable?
I just said that I'm doing a full-blown plan with the township's engineer for Shade Tree.
Yeah.
Not for open
Commenting
space.
on how this is worded, just for future, like if there's any coordination.
Yeah, well, so the reason I write it like that, so at every Trails Advisory meeting, there's an item on our agenda, and every one of our Trails members every month goes out to their assigned trail, and they'll tell me, like, the leg on this bench is broken, this sign is down, and then I compile all of that into a spreadsheet that I coordinate with DPW, did they do it, did they not? So that's how that happens, but for Shade Tree, yeah, I would say you probably want to coordinate with Connor, who then talks to Bob, which he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here too,
yeah.
so it's fine. It's,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely, yeah,
Talking
yeah.
to each other, that's what's important.
Yeah, for sure. You had a question, Ken?
Well, a couple of things. One thing I want to remember, I was asked to pass on, Mayor Rafiq, who's on the planning board and lives at, I think, 15 Wake Avenue. She wishes that the township would plant some trees on the township open space there.
Spring Street.
So we're going to, save that thought, Fred. Save that thought till a little bit further into this meeting. And you'll see why I say that.
And the other more general question is there any plan or even intention to plant more street trees at any streets that don't have street trees? I would think mainly east of Franklin Boulevard.
So the answer answer is, that's a shade tree question, agreed, it is a shade tree commission question, and Arnie's just said, shade tree commission has concerns about planting trees until we develop a maintenance plan, and I have the township engineer providing for me cost estimates to develop a maintenance plan. So I think it's like one of those, which came first, the chicken or the egg? We're not gonna plant trees until we have a maintenance plan, and we're not gonna have a maintenance plan until we're planting trees, but I'm gonna make it so that we get a maintenance plan, maybe, if it doesn't cost too much money to develop a maintenance plan, and then, once we have a maintenance plan, then we have to determine if it's gonna cost too much money to implement it, and at what level we're gonna implement it, because are we just going to implement it on streets? Are we gonna implement it for streets and develop parks? Are we gonna implement it for streets, develop parks and open space? Because all of those things come into play. And from the basic, I'll tell you, you would be familiar with it. I was not familiar. You would probably be familiar with it as well. A municipality having a tree maintenance plan gets you 10 points for Sustainable Jersey. If you look at the sheet from Sustainable Jersey as to what is involved in a maintenance plan, you'll see that it has the potential in a municipality this big to be a considerable expense. Not just the development of the plan, that's relatively straightforward. It's the implementation of the plan and maintenance of trees on a schedule that ranges from 3 to 5 years per tree, depending on how broad you go with it, means that your costs skyrocket, and we don't have a tree division. So that's dedicated to doing nothing but trees, so.
So would you develop a sort of a cost estimate per tree?
No, it would be a cost estimate based on the tree inventory, and that's where we have a tree inventory from several years ago on hazardous trees, or trees that we're going to potentially, the Dutch elm and all of the other issues related to trees over the last few years. Those trees have been inventoried. We would need a full inventory. Inventorying the open space properties would be monumental in cost. So there's more than one way to inventory. You can do inventory based on GIS with aerials and making an estimate on number and type based on that, but you also have to do an inventory on all of your street trees that are in the public right-of-way. You have to do an inventory of all your trees that are in the park. That comes at a cost.
But what we're talking about specifically is not the trees that are there now.
But you don't have a maintenance plan for just trees that you're now going to plant. You have to have a maintenance plan for all of your trees. That's how you develop a tree maintenance plan. Well, I understand what you're looking at, Arnie, but that's kind of doing it a quarter of the way to the appropriate way. We're going to look at the costs associated with all of those different options. I've asked them to do an analysis. They did the tree inventory previously. CME is the one who did the tree inventory for CME.
I'm not
sure
that, I'm going to give you a little pushback on this.
You can push back, I'm pretty much done talking about it now.
That's fine.
That's what I'm doing, and we'll report back.
I think we need to hear what you just said, you get it written down.
Let me just have my final say, then you're done talking, and I'll just say, when trees are planted, they need to be maintained for at least the first 2 years.
3 to 5 years, actually, is what the estimate, what the recommendation is.
Shade trees said 2 years.
I shade tree gets that.
3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 is
whatever it is fine. But we're not looking to go into the middle of some forest and...
I didn't think that you were.
Right.
The cost estimate doesn't cost me any money. I'm asking for them to give me the cost estimate to do a tree maintenance plan, but I also have to have a cost estimate on a tree inventory. And that tree inventory has to, at the very least, include our street trees throughout the town, the ones that are in the public right-of-way. If it goes beyond the public right-of-way to public parks, that's the charge of the Shade Tree Commission, right? Public lands. I think that it's beyond the scope of anyone to think that we're going to do open space properties, and I don't believe that that's even going to be a consideration. But you've talked about plantings on public right-of-way, and you've talked about plantings in parks. well, we're not going to just do the ones that we're just planning tomorrow, we should also do the ones that we planted last year and the year before, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why we have to do an inventory.
Absolutely.
So, one other thing, not having to do with the watering or the planting, whoever's realm this comes under, if you go down South Middle Bush Road going towards 27, after, what is that?
Between
They're private property.
That was my
We're
question.
all on private property.
Now, because they're on private property, and it looks like crap, those dead trees for
The
years.
health department will tell them they have to remove them.
Okay, is there something that the township can do to direct the health department to tell them to remove them?
You can give them,
You tell the health department to issue a summons.
Exactly.
so,
I mean, it just looks crummy.
Yeah, they're outside of the right of way. Already referred that to the county. That's a county road.
So the Shade Tree Commission is due to update our forestry plan, the
Yep.
C, whatever. So I think we're anticipating putting in there that full inventory that you're talking about, because I think our purposes overlap, so it's just something else.
So to get sustainable Jersey points for a tree management plan, you have to have a forestry plan. They go hand in hand. I've already talked to Steve
We have
about
to
that.
update ours.
And I had a discussion with your chairman about it. Yep.
All right, moving on, updates from other committees. Anybody have anything from other committees?
that was a shade tree.
Change your color, but you covered everything already.
I have one update, it's just very brief. So if you go to Negri, Napodi, or Middle Bush, or Inman now, I did a bunch of paint blazes. So if you want to go look at them,
You did a bunch of what?
paint blazes.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Okay.
they look very nice.
Trails are long.
I only got one trail done at each place, because it takes a long time. And I just got it on the bucket and all that stuff, but it looks really good, and I did see someone out there walking while I was doing it, and they were like, I love this, I can see everything so great, and Chuck's been helping, and so we're all trying our best, but it's gonna take some time, so you might see some incomplete, but tell me if it's very confusing, or any feedback, I welcome that, so.
I do have
The maps, Inman, Negri, Napodi, this is actually 18 left this for me, so this is an example of what the new map is gonna look like, I just have to proof it, but the brochure is done, and all the trails now are in the actual color, it's on an aerial. Yeah, so this way when you're walking, it's on an aerial, so you can kind of get an idea of where you're going.
Is the yellow Inman? No.
No, this is all Negri, this is the yellow trail at Negri, the brown trail, and I did the blazes along here and here for this one, and so once the map gets done, then we go out and do the blazes, and we update the trails brochure, so if you go to the Negri kiosk, this map is in there, so little by little, we're getting it, but yeah, he did, and this is the Butler one, he did a great job, he always does a great job, but see here, he put the stream crossings on, and the parking lot, so all our maps, and this is the real trail, like this is actually GPS, so you're not gonna get lost on these, so.
What happened with the bird blind at Negri?
So Chuck is working on a cost estimate from the Trails Committee to bring to the Open Space Committee, so that we can decide.
Yeah, I was out there this afternoon, actually, checking it over again. There's several problems with the bird blind. One of them is that mowing never occurs behind the bird blind.
Right.
And so you got pokeweed coming up, so you can't even see anything out of the bird blind. Okay. The other is that the paneling on the bird blind is, the plywood's starting to delaminate, but that's something we can fix
But they were
quite easily.
tear it down and build a whole new one, though.
Chuck is doing an estimate to see if it can be just salvaged or if a new is needed.
Ideally, first of all, the bird blind seems to be in the wrong place.
Okay.
It looks out on the edge of the pond where there ain't no birds because it's full of cattails. And furthermore, it's on the deep part of the pond, and the birding really is in the shallower parts where we get Sandalinius green herons, so you say it should be in front of the pond. It should be, ideally, it should be, in a different area of the pond, probably more toward the back, or maybe even on the other side of it. But, it's,
And then there's a house.
it's still usable.
Back comfortable
Okay.
south.
One thing I think we should do is to make an opening on the north wall of lawn, so that people can see at least that section of lawn where the bridge really are. The other is, like I said, we gotta get public works to clearly mow the area behind the pond, and mow the area around the pond where the fence is. Okay. Oh, you just didn't have a full audience. Okay, thank you. So, anyway, we need public works to do their job mowing at Native Pody, and also, we'd like to do a better job of not mowing areas which we're trying to see if we can restore.
I did tell them,
Pollinator area, and so on. I went out and Chairman Puskas kindly donated a set of flags for me to use, and I set flags out there. I got some in my car that I didn't use, but I will get back to you, and so on. And I marked on using ground marking stuff, and so on. We have a dumping problem at Butler Road. There's a whole bunch of car parts, fenders,
Oh,
all
let me
sorts of
just tell you,
things.
Chuck, so I reported that to Carl, but I thought you had said you called in the police report, because we do need that.
I did not call in the police
Oh, you did
report.
not?
I sent a
Okay.
message to you and to Bob, Manager Bob here.
Oh, okay.
Several weeks ago, but I'm sorry.
I don't know that you ever sent a message to me, Chuck. I haven't gotten an email from you in months.
It was a text message, Bob.
You didn't send a text message to me either.
Text was well, then.
Not to me.
I need another number, but perhaps I can.
What you need is to call the police department and report it. Now, I tell every member at this table,
Yeah.
if there is something that is a violation of the law, don't call Tara, don't call Bob, don't call me, call the police. They're the enforcement agency that it needs to be reported to. Only them. After it gets reported to them, then I'll get notified by the police department, and then I can notify Tara. But you need to call the police.
Do you mind?
It's been there for right now at least 3 weeks.
Okay.
And,
I did speak to Carl about it, and he said that, you know, the police, they may need, in case it's evidence of something, that's why the police need to be called. So if you want, I can do it, but since you have the photos, if you want to call, I mean, let me know, either way.
Should I just report to the Wayne Police Desk?
Yeah.
When did this happen now?
Well, I observed it and first reported it 3 weeks ago.
And you sent a text message, you said? Because I usually get your text.
I sent text messages to you and to Manager Bob.
I don't know that you have ever even had my cell phone number, Chuck, so I don't give it out freely. But I'll tell you that, I never got any text messages from you.
I don't really care if I report to you again.
I'm just telling you, I never got
I need a place to
anything.
report to.
So, yeah, you should report it to the police department. 3 weeks later, it's pointless to report it to the police department, because they're not gonna be able to follow up anything now. So provide the photos to Tara, and I'll have it documented.
And my point in not even going to the police to begin with, looks like it was there for several weeks before I even got there, so.
Well, I did, as soon as there are...
Anyway, so the procedure now is to report it to the police, the main desk.
Report it to the main number of the police.
Situation done.
Yes, you're
Okay.
reporting a crime.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly, not anymore.
So you're not officially doing what you're saying at this point? Okay, so I'll just send you the pictures then, okay? Because I did send it to Carl, but, okay, all right.
Thank you.
The last meeting was April 18th, right? So after that, we had an Arbor Day event, and we planted a tree at Franklin High School. Very nice tree, and it rained buckets after that, so it's a happy tree. I've been going and checking on it, and I've been watering because I don't see any evidence of rain. So that's our next hurdle. We're going to think about what the schools are doing in terms of maintaining trees.
Okay.
And then kind of a question, I know we had a subcommittee of environmental and shade tree to try to revise the tree ordinance, which it will include tree maintenance, and I just haven't heard anything.
We haven't met as of late, so we were waiting for that model ordinance to came out, which we talked about at the last meeting. So now that we're not going to give any comment on that, we can meet again to discuss it, but our ordinance as is actually exceeds the requirements that the state have. So I'll talk to about it again for environmental, see if they want to meet. But,
Well, I
yeah.
think since Bob is saying there's going to be this process about a maintenance plan maybe we should
Maybe we should wait.
Yeah,
Maybe we should wait.
instead of
going back and
I just don't want to
forth.
forget about that.
No, I agree, thank you.
If there's no more updates, motion to go to public comment period again?
Make a motion.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any comments from the public? Everybody's good? Motion to close?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. All right, we're gonna have to go, I believe we have to go into executive session, so
Yes.
we'll ask the public to please leave and.
Thank you, have a good night.
Have a nice night.
Thank you so much.